Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your friend and your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today, we've got some really big Mandoverse updates. A couple of days ago, I posted a video breaking down some new reveals for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. We spoke about comments from Jon Favreau, new posters, Easter eggs, and we broke down a bit of new footage. And today's video kind of carries on from some of that, because if you remember, Jon Favreau said the Mandalorian movie connects to Ahsoka Season 2. It's gonna give us a few hints, but now in a new interview with SFX magazine, he's expanded on what he meant. And inadvertently, he's given us some explicit details about what was gonna be Mando Season 4, not to mention a huge reveal for what Dave Filoni is doing with Ahsoka, and beyond. That's right, beyond. Jon Favreau teases there is more Mandoverse content after Ahsoka comes to an end. So some huge reveals in this one, guys. Subscribe if you haven't, like this video, share it, do all of that good stuff. But no more jibber jabber, shall we dive into it? Let's go.
This is where the fun begins.
Now before we get into the TV side of things, the first clip for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie was just shared online. It's a fun sequence that takes place on Adelphi, where Din, Zeb and Grogu have to infiltrate Lord Janu Coin's mansion. It's not just the New Republic who has a base out there, the Remnant has a hideout. This is our first official look at the villain of the movie, and after Din and Zeb capture him, Grogu is given instructions from the Razor Crest, but doesn't seem to understand them. It's just a fun little scene, which has a bit of influence from The Rise of Skywalker with being chased by the Stormtroopers, a bit of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and A New Hope.
I don't think he knows what he's doing.
But now, my dear friends, on to some big news for the TV shows. So I want to begin with some stuff which I wouldn't say is positive. It's not the best way to market the Star Wars movie coming out in a month, but at least it's honest. And Favreau is setting expectations from the word go. It is a good ad for Ahsoka Season 2 though, I will say that. But Jon Favreau begins by confirming that the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is pretty low-key. As the article says, there looks to be plenty of excitement in store, but no galaxy-shaking revelations. Don't expect big players. All of that stuff, Jon Favreau says, is being saved for Ahsoka Season 2. And then he goes on to tease what Dave Filoni's gonna do in the second season, noting, and this might be controversial, that it's setting up the sequel trilogy, with the First Order rising to prominence in 20 years. Jon says, anyone who saw the sequels knows there's a First Order coming. And look, I have to be honest, I understand why fans are going to be disappointed by this. They're not going to like the fact that they're being explicit with sequel connections, but I feel like that was always the elephant in the room with the Mandoverse, that eventually it does have to connect to some of those events, with cloning, Project Necromancer, the Shadow Council members like Hux, Luke's Academy and Book of Boba Fett. The clues are already in place. But because there is a good 30 years between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, I think fans were hoping that they would be less explicit with those connections, and wouldn't even have to make them in some cases. I think fans were hoping that with shows like Ahsoka, with new villains like Baylan and Shin, with an entirely new galaxy, with exploration of Rebels characters, in the time period between episodes 6 and 7, Jon and Dave could just go their own way with it. They don't have to rush to set up the First Order. So the fact this is the first thing Jon mentions about Ahsoka Season 2 is kind of a strange one, considering they know how controversial 7, 8 and 9 were. The First Order is quite a long way away. As far as we know in canon, Grand Admiral Thrawn's remnant had nothing to do with it. So unless they're jumping straight to Sloane and Hux, maybe an early Snoke, I don't know why Jon would have said this. And then he goes on to say that after the Mandalorian and Grogu, Ahsoka Season 2 is coming out, which I've seen all of. And he says, compared to the Mandalorian and Grogu, that's larger picture stuff. The Mando movie is smaller scale, but he compares it to A New Hope, saying this, that's about the officers, and we're the enlisted men. This is more of a ground level experience of what's going on. You're seeing the backdrop, which by the way, is what the first Star Wars started off as. And this is precisely what I was saying the other day. In The Mandalorian and Grogu, the main characters are going to feel the symptoms of what's going on with Thrawn, his return to the galaxy, as well as the activities of the other remnants. So that's very important to note. The movie doesn't dive into the big players, but we are going to feel their impact and their presence. And then he goes on to say, if you look at the fall of empires, historically, a lot of the power brokers became warlords, and anyone with a standing army in the ancient world had power. I guess what the Shadow Council alluded to is they're actually starting to connect. There's something going on, and Thrawn is sort of the missing link that we began alluding to at the end of Season 3. And it's interesting Favreau mentions this, because that's what Pelion said. The Shadow Council wants the New Republic to think that the Remnant is fractured, that the different warlords are scattered and have no power through unity. But now that Gideon is dead, and Thrawn is back, things are starting to change. Now, I've previously said I don't see why Thrawn would care about the likes of Janu, you know, the main villain in this film, or some of the others working on cloning, plundering hyperspace lanes, but according to Jon Favreau, there is a big connection. And he restates, the Mandalorian and Grogu does have that link. However, the original plan for Mando Season 4 was going to be more explicit, and Grand Admiral Thrawn was going to make an appearance, and Jon Favreau now clarifies, the movie is not Season 4 for the big screen. It's not even part of what would have been the 4th season. That is separate, and he still has the scripts. He refuses to answer if Season 4's been cancelled, but the plot of the movie was written for the big screen. It was written independently from the Season 4 script. Episode ideas were not recycled. Season 4 was going to deal with a different aspect of this story. And Jon confirms Thrawn was part of it. And finally he says, Dave, talking about Dave Filoni, has grabbed the baton with the Ahsoka show, and that's going to be taking the next step. There's a lot in that man's head, and I know that he takes how it all connects very seriously. Now Dave is in his new position, he's been figuring out where things are moving forward after this. He's got a lot of responsibility there. And considering Jon and Dave have endless conversations about the future of Star Wars and where things are headed, I wouldn't be surprised if Jon is playing rather coy, but he seems to confirm there are going to be more Mandoverse projects after Ahsoka Season 2 comes to an end. A couple of days ago we had the news that there is a secret Star Wars project in the works, something live action. Could it be another spin-off? It's reassuring to know that despite rumours of Dave Filoni's movie being cancelled, they're already thinking about ways to navigate the story after The Mandalorian and Grogu and Ahsoka Season 2 are done. It's reassuring because there was always a chance if the box office is bad, The Mandalorian and Grogu could be the end for these characters, or at least they're put on the shelf for a very long time. And the subheading of this piece really sums things up. Ahsoka Season 2 is leading Star Wars forward. If The Mandalorian's 4th season is not going to happen, then Ahsoka Season 2 is our last hope to see the story of Thrawn continue, to see the big players, the bigger picture, as Jon Favreau says. And with so many questions unanswered, with so many mysteries still up in the air, with the promise of Anakin's false ghost, there were rumours of flashbacks to the Clone Wars, more of Peridia, Balin's mission. I think that is something Star Wars fans are going to pay attention to. Favreau also says he's seen all of it. We know the majority of production is done, but to me, the way this has been worded, it sounds like Ahsoka is coming this year. So there you have it, my friends. Mando Season 4 is going to contain Thrawn, have a much stronger through line to Ahsoka Season 2. So does Mando and Grogu to a lesser extent, but there are still some big surprises in store. What do you guys think? Are you encouraged or discouraged by Jon's words? Are you hoping for more Mandoverse after Ahsoka? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And with 1 month to go until The Mandalorian and Grogu, how are you feeling? And just in case you missed it, my friends, my breakdown of more Shadowlord episodes 5 and 6 was posted yesterday. Go check that out. And if you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.